My name is Colleen Mercer. I'm 34 years old. 5 years ago, my own family stood up at my sister's funeral and declared, in front of more than 200 people, that I was the one who killed her. No trial, no evidence. My mother didn't need any of that. She simply said it loud enough for everyone to hear, and from that moment on, I became a murderer in the eyes of the people who brought me into this world. They erased me from the family. No explanations, no phone calls, nothing. Then, just a few days ago, my mother texted me. Dad is in the ICU. They say he only has 24 to 48 hours left. If you don't come, that's on you. I drove through the night to get back. When I finally reached his bedside, my father looked at me, grabbed my hand, and whispered 5 words that shattered everything I thought I knew. You weren't driving, Colleen. Open the box. Before I tell you what was inside that box, and how it completely destroyed the lie I'd been forced to live with for 5 years, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. But only if you've ever been betrayed by your own family, or blamed for something you didn't do. And drop your answer in the comments right now. If your family blamed you for a death you didn't cause, would you go back when they called? Type yes or never. Now, let me take you back to that fateful night. The text came at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I was sitting on our couch in Franklin, Tennessee. Ryan had already gone to bed. Emma's nightlight glowed down the hall. The house was quiet except for the hum of the dishwasher finishing its cycle. My phone lit up. The number wasn't saved, but I recognized the area code. 614, Columbus. Your father is in the ICU at Riverside Medical. Pneumonia, sepsis. They're saying 24 to 48 hours. If you choose not to come, that's on you. Mom. I read it 3 times. I hadn't heard my mother's voice, even through text, in 1,847 days. The number was exact. I'd counted. The phrase, "that's on you," hit differently than she probably intended. It was the same phrase she'd used 5 years ago, standing in our kitchen 3 days after the crash, when I was still trying to piece together what had happened. If Sophie's gone, that's on you, Colleen. I sat there staring at the screen. I could have deleted it, should have deleted it, but I was already opening Google Maps. Columbus, Ohio to Franklin, Tennessee, 6 hours and 12 minutes. Ryan found me packing a bag at 12:28 a.m. He stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching me fold a sweater I didn't need. He knew. He always knew. You don't owe them anything, Cole, he said quietly. You know that, right? I know. Then why are you going? I zipped the bag. Because if I don't go, I'll never stop wondering what he wanted to say. Ryan crossed the room and kissed my forehead. Call me when you get there. Not if, when. Like he knew I'd already decided. I left at 4:30 a.m. Emma was still asleep. I kissed her forehead, careful not to wake her, and whispered, Mama loves you. She stirred, but didn't open her eyes. She was 4 years old. She'd never met my parents. She didn't know she had a grandmother and grandfather 6 hours north who'd chosen not to know she existed. I drove I-65 north through the dark. Kentucky appeared in my headlights just after 6. The sun came up somewhere past Louisville, turning the sky pale and cold. At a rest stop just over the Ohio border, I texted Ryan. Past Louisville, 4.5 hours left. He replied immediately, Love you, drive safe. I bought terrible coffee from a vending machine and stood in the parking lot watching semi-trucks pull in and out. The air smelled like diesel and frost. February in Ohio felt different than February in Tennessee. Sharper. Meaner. I got back in the car. An old playlist started automatically when I plugged my phone in. Songs from 2020. Songs Sophie and I used to sing. I skipped the first one before the chorus hit. By 8:47 a.m., I crossed into Ohio. The state looked the same. The highway, the exits, the gray sky, like nothing had died here. I had 3 missed calls by the time I stopped for gas, all from the same number, all with a 614 area code, Columbus. I didn't recognize it. I didn't call back. The GPS guided me onto I-71, then 270, then the exit for Riverside Medical Center. The hospital appeared on my right, a sprawling complex of glass and concrete that I hadn't seen in 5 years, but remembered with perfect clarity. I parked on level 3 of the garage, 9:53 a.m. I sat in the car for 6 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the dashboard. Then I texted Ryan. "I'm here." He replied immediately, "You've got this." I didn't believe him. Before I tell you what happened in that ICU room, you need to understand the night Sophie died. September 26th, 2020. A Saturday. We'd spent the weekend at my parents' lake house near Buckeye Lake, a little place they'd owned for 20 years, about 40 minutes outside Columbus. It was supposed to be the last family gathering before fall really set in. Labor Day had passed. The air had that end of summer weight to it. My brother Brett was there, 37 at the time. He'd been drinking since 6 p.m., beer, then whiskey, the way he always did at family things. His fiancée Lila was with him. My parents had gone to bed around 10. Sophie was 19, a sophomore at Ohio State. She had her whole life ahead of her. She didn't want to leave. It was past 11, and Brett said Dad wanted the house locked up. He had the keys. Sophie looked at me and said, "Can we just stay one more hour? Brett's being weird." I should have listened to her. At 10:58 p.m., Sophie texted me from across the room. "Wait up, I don't want to ride with Brett driving. He's been drinking." I texted back, "I'll sit up front with him, you take the back." That text is still on my phone. I've never deleted it. It's the last thing she ever said to me. We left the lake house at 11:02 p.m. Brett insisted on driving. I was tired. I should have fought him on it, but I didn't. I thought I'd sit up front, keep him awake, make sure he stayed focused. Sophie got in the back seat behind him. I got in the passenger seat. Brett started the engine. We stopped at the speedway on Route 37. Brett wanted Red Bull. Sophie needed the bathroom. I pumped the gas. $38.50. I still remember the amount. There was a security camera above pump number 4. I didn't think about it at the time, but my father did. A year later, he paid the manager $200 for a copy of that footage. Sophie bought Skittles. Brett bought cigarettes, which was strange because he didn't smoke. Later, I realized it was a nervous tell. He was already planning something. We got back in the car, Brett in the driver's seat, Sophie behind him, me in the passenger seat. 11:08 p.m. we pulled out of the Speedway parking lot and headed south on Route 37 toward Dublin. Brett turned the music up, too loud, like he was trying to drown something out. I remember Sophie's voice cutting through. "Brett, you're going too fast." Brett snapped, "I said I'm fine." Then headlights, impact, black. The next thing I remember is waking up 3 days later in a hospital room with my mother and Brett standing over me. I had a concussion. IVs in both arms, a monitor beeping steadily next to the bed. "Do you remember what happened?" my mother asked. I tried to think. My head felt full of static. "We were driving. Where's Sophie?" My mother's face told me before her words did. "Sophie didn't make it, Colleen." The air left the room. Brett stood behind her, arms crossed. His face was strange, too still, too controlled. "What happened?" I whispered. "You were driving, Col," Brett said. His voice was steady, calm, like he'd practiced. "You don't remember? You said you were fine to drive." I stared at him. "I wasn't driving." "You were," my mother said. Firm, certain. "The police said so. You don't remember because of the concussion. The doctor said memory gaps are normal." I tried to think. I tried to pull the memory back. But there was nothing. Just headlights and impact, and Sophie's voice saying, "Brett, you're going too fast." But Brett was telling me I'd been driving. My mother was telling me I'd been driving. And I had a concussion. And Sophie was dead. Lila came to the hospital the next day. Brett's fiancée, a nurse at a different hospital. She gave a statement to the police. Colleen said she was okay to drive, Lila told Detective Wade Collins. Brett offered, but she insisted. She seemed fine. The crash report was filed on October 2, 2020. Apparent driver, Colleen Mercer. No charges were filed. The investigation was listed as ongoing, but nothing ever came of it. I was never arrested, never convicted. But I didn't need a conviction. My family had already decided. My father came to the hospital on Wednesday, September 30th. He stayed 8 minutes. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "You need to rest, sweetheart," he said. "Dad, I don't remember driving." He looked away. "The doctor said that's normal." Then he left, like he was running from something. I didn't know what. Sophie's funeral was on October 8, 2020. A Thursday. 2 p.m., Riverside Funeral Home in Westerville. The same place where we'd buried my grandfather 6 years earlier. 200 people came. Maybe more. Sophie was in a closed casket, white with pink roses. The impact had been too severe for an open casket. There was a photo of her instead, her high school graduation picture from May. She was smiling. She looked so young. I sat in the back row, my own sister's funeral, and I felt like an intruder. Aunt June, my father's sister, sat next to me. She whispered, "How are you holding up, honey?" I said, "I don't know." That was the truth. I didn't know how I was supposed to feel. Grief and guilt were tangled so tightly I couldn't tell them apart. The burial was at Westerville Cemetery, Section C, Plot 47. Light rain started as the casket was lowered. My mother stood at the graveside, Brett holding her up. My father stood next to them, staring at the ground. I stood 10 feet away, alone. Ryan was next to me, holding my hand. We weren't married yet, but he was the only person who hadn't looked at me differently since the crash. The pastor said, "We commit Sophie's body to the ground, earth to earth, ashes to ashes." My mother turned. She looked directly at me, and she said it, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You killed your sister, Colleen. You killed my baby." Not screaming, not crying, just stated, like a fact. 200 people heard her. No one said a word. Not one person defended me. Not even my father. Aunt June gasped. Ryan's hand tightened around mine. Brett didn't contradict her. He just stood there, holding my mother, his face blank. I stood there in the rain, and I realized something. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was the daughter who killed Sophie. If your family has ever believed the person who spoke loudest instead of the person who spoke the truth, leave the word truth in the comments below. That night, my family gathered at my parents' house in Dublin. I wasn't invited. At 8:32 p.m., my father texted me, "Your mother needs space. Maybe you should too." That was the last text my father sent me, for 4 years and 4 months. In the weeks after the funeral, I heard things. From Aunt June, mostly. She was the only one who still talked to me. My mother was telling everyone I'd been speeding. That Brett had begged me to slow down. That Sophie had been scared. The story spread. Through the family. Through my parents' church. Through the neighborhood in Dublin where I'd grown up. I became the daughter who killed her sister. Brett sent me one text on November 3rd. "You need to get help, Colleen. What you did, you need to face it." I didn't answer. I didn't block his number, though. I wanted to remember what they thought of me. By November, I'd stopped trying to convince anyone. Ryan and I got married at the courthouse on November 14th, 2020. Just us and 2 witnesses. No family. No announcement. In May 2021, we moved. Ryan got a job offer in Franklin, Tennessee. A logistics company needed a senior accountant. I found remote work doing operations coordination for a nonprofit. We packed a 26-foot U-Haul and drove south on I-65. I didn't tell my parents I was leaving Ohio. I just disappeared. The way they'd made me disappear. Emma was born on December 18th, 2021. 6 pounds, 4 ounces, Williamson Medical Center. The nurse asked, "Does she have a name?" I said, "Emma, after no one. Not after my mother. Not after Ryan's mother. Just Emma. Clean, new, ours." My mother never met her granddaughter. I never told her Emma existed. We built a life in Franklin, 412 Magnolia Lane, a small house with a fenced yard. Emma started preschool last year. Ryan made senior controller. I kept working. We had friends, routines, a normal life. But I couldn't bury the weight of a death I didn't cause. Emma asked me once when she was 3, "Mama, why don't I have a grandma and grandpa?" I said, "You do, baby. They just live far away." It wasn't a lie. They did live far away, in every sense that mattered. I walked into Riverside Medical Center at 10:07 a.m. on February 14, 2026, Valentine's Day. The irony wasn't lost on me. I got a visitor badge from the machine in the lobby, badge number A-0412. The badge had my name printed on it in blocky letters, Colleen Mercer. It felt strange to see that name here, in this building, in this city, like I was someone I used to be. The elevator took me to the 5th floor. "I see you." The doors opened, and I smelled it immediately. Hand sanitizer, floor cleaner. That particular staleness that only hospitals have. I'd been in this hospital once before, 5 years ago, when they told me Sophie was dead. The smell was the same. My mother was in the waiting room, sitting in a vinyl chair near the window. CNN played on the TV above her, muted. She looked up when I walked in. She didn't stand. "You're late," she said. I checked my watch. "You said 48 hours. I'm here in 10. She looked older than I remembered. 65, but she looked 70. Gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, lines around her mouth that hadn't been there before. She looked at me like I was a ghost she'd buried. I looked at her like a stranger. "Where's Brett?" I asked. "He'll be here soon. Your father's in room 512. I started to walk toward the ICU. "Colleen." I stopped. "Your father was medicated last night," she said. "He wasn't himself. If he said anything strange, don't read into it." I didn't answer. I kept walking. A nurse met me outside room 512. Her badge said Patel. "Are you family?" she asked. "I'm his daughter." "He's been asking for someone named Colleen. That's you?" "Yes." She hesitated. "He's intubated, sedated most of the time, but he has moments of lucidity. If you're going to see him, now is good. His vitals have been unstable." "What's his prognosis?" "Not good. The pneumonia progressed to sepsis. His organs are failing." "I'm sorry." I nodded. "Can I go in?" "Of course." I pushed open the door. The room was dim. Monitors beeped softly. An IV pump hummed. The ventilator hissed in rhythm. My father lay in the bed, small beneath the white sheets. He'd always been a big man, 6'2", mechanic's hands, broad shoulders, the kind of man who could lift an engine block and make it look easy. Now he looked like he was disappearing. His eyes were open. He saw me. His hand moved, palm up, like he wanted me to come closer. I crossed the room and stood next to the bed. "Hi, Dad," I said quietly. He tried to speak, but the ventilator tube prevented it. He mouthed something. I couldn't make it out. The door opened behind me. My mother stepped in. "Don't tire him out, Colleen." My father's eyes shifted to her. He mouthed one word. "Out." Nurse Patel appeared in the doorway. "Ma'am, he's asking for privacy. Maybe give them a few minutes." My mother's jaw tightened, but she left. The door clicked shut. My father reached under his pillow. His hand shook. He pulled something out. A brass key, small, old, tarnished at the edges. There was a number engraved on it, faint but readable, 214. He pressed it into my palm. His grip was surprisingly strong. I looked down at the key. It was warm from his hand. "What is this?" I whispered. He tried to speak again, but the tube stopped him. He gestured weakly toward the nurse call button. I pressed it. Nurse Patel came back. "What do you need?" My father pointed to the ventilator mask. She understood. She moved quickly, adjusting the tube slightly, giving him a few seconds of airway. "Just a moment," she said. "Make it quick." My father looked at me. His voice came out hoarse, barely audible. "Box 214, Fifth Third, Hendersonville Branch. Don't let Brett see it." The monitor started beeping faster. Nurse Patel moved back in, replacing the mask. "That's all the time I can give you," she said. But my father wasn't done. He grabbed my hand again, pulled me close. He whispered 5 more words. "You weren't driving, Colleen." Then he coughed. The monitors screamed. Nurse Patel hit the call button. "I need you to step back," she said. More staff rushed in. I was pushed toward the door. The last thing I saw was my father's face, his eyes locked on mine. Then the door closed. Brett was in the hallway when I came out. 42 years old now, still tall, still broad, but his face had aged. There were lines around his eyes. His hair was graying at the temples. He saw me holding something. "What did he give you?" he asked. I closed my fist around the key. "Nothing." "Colleen." "How's Lila?" I asked. He blinked. "She's fine. We're fine." I walked past him toward the elevator. "Where are you going?" he called after me. "To get coffee." I didn't look back. I drove to the Fifth Third Bank in Hendersonville. It was 18 miles from the hospital, 22 minutes in midday traffic. I'd lied about the coffee. The key burned in my pocket the entire drive. You weren't driving, Colleen. 5 years. 1,847 days. And my father had just told me I wasn't driving. The bank was on Main Street, a small branch in a town I'd never been to before. I parked in the lot and sat in the car for 3 minutes, staring at the key in my hand. Then I went inside. A banker greeted me at the desk. Her name tag said Sharon. "I need to access a safe deposit box," I said. "Do you have the key and ID?" I handed her both. She looked at the key. "Box 214. Let me check the account." She typed into her computer. Frowned. Typed again. Then she looked up at me. "Ms. Mercer, you're listed as an authorized user on this box. Your name was added in August 2022. "What?" "Your father, Grant Mercer, added you as a co-holder on August 14th, 2022. You have full access." 3.5 years ago, he'd put my name on this box 3.5 years ago, and never told me. Sharon led me to the vault, a small room with metal boxes lining the walls. She used her key and mine to open box 214. "I'll give you privacy," she said. "Take your time." She left. I stood alone in the small viewing room, staring at the box. It was metal. About 10 inches wide, 5 inches tall, 24 inches deep. I lifted the lid. Inside were 6 manila envelopes, organized, labeled, and on top, a letter addressed to me in my father's handwriting. "Colleen, open this first." My hands shook as I picked it up. The letter was 4 pages, handwritten, blue ink, dated August 14th, 2022. Sophie's birthday. She would have been 22. "Colleen, if you're reading this, I'm either dead or dying. And I owe you the truth I should have given you 5 years ago." Brett told me that night, in the hospital chapel. It was 3:42 in the morning on September 27th, 2020. 6 hours after the crash. He found me sitting alone. He was shaking, crying. He said he was driving. He said Sophie told him to slow down. He snapped at her. He said the last thing he remembered was her voice saying, "Brett, please." And then the impact. He said he woke up, and you were unconscious, and Sophie was gone. And he made a choice. He switched places with you. He told me he was terrified, that if they knew he was drunk, he'd lose everything. The business, his future, everything I'd built for him. And then he begged me not to tell your mother. I should have gone to the police right then. I should have told them the truth. I should have protected you, but I didn't. Your mother said, "We can't lose both children. Colleen is strong. She'll survive this. Brett won't survive prison." And I believed her. Or I wanted to believe her. Because it was easier than standing up to her. I told myself you were strong. You had Ryan. You'd survive this. Brett had nothing but that business and his future. If he went to prison, he'd never recover. I thought I was protecting my family. I was protecting a lie. By the time I realized how wrong I was, you were gone. You'd moved away. You wouldn't take my calls. So I built you this box. I hired a private investigator. I got the footage. I wrote the affidavit. I documented everything. I couldn't give you justice while I was alive, but I could make sure the truth survived me. I don't expect you to forgive me. I wouldn't forgive me. But you deserve your name back. You deserve to stop carrying Sophie's death. Use this however you need to. I loved you both, but I chose the child your mother wanted me to choose. And I'll die knowing that was the worst thing I ever did. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Dad. At the bottom was a notary seal, dated August 14th, 2022. Notarized by Karen Westfield. I read it twice. Then I set it down and opened the first envelope. Envelope 1. Crash report and scene photos. The official crash report. Report number OH-2020-FR-091438. Filed October 2nd, 2020. Franklin County Sheriff's Office. Apparent driver, Colleen Mercer. But beneath it were the scene photos. 14 of them. Photos I'd never seen. The car wrapped around a tree. The driver's side crumpled. The impact angle wrong for the story they'd told. And one photo that made my breath stop. Brett standing next to the wreck. His face pale, his eyes wide. He looked terrified. Envelope 2. Gas station footage. A DVD in a plastic case. Labeled in my father's handwriting. Speedway, Route 37. September 26, 2020. 11:02 p.m. Beneath it, a note. Paid $200 to manager for copy. GM. I couldn't watch it here, but I knew what it would show. Brett getting into the driver's seat. Envelope 3. 911 audio transcript. 3 pages. The call made by a witness at 11:21 p.m. on September 26, 2020. Caller, Jerry Palmer. Truck driver, independent witness, line 04. I saw him, the driver, going at least 65, maybe 70. On that curve, that's suicide. Operator. Can you see the driver now? Palmer. There's people around the car, I can't. Him, not her. He saw a male driver, before anyone told him what to see. Envelope 4. Father's memo. 1 page. Typed. Dated September 27th, 2020. 3:42 a.m. Brett found me in the chapel. He was shaking. He said, "Dad, I was driving. I panicked. Colleen was unconscious. I thought if they knew I was drunk, I'd lose everything. Mom can't know. Please, Dad, please." My father knew, within 6 hours of Sophie dying, and he said nothing. Envelope 5. Private Investigator Report 22 pages. Carver and Associates, Cincinnati. Dated April 18th, 2021. Subject, Brett Mercer. Findings. Total debt, $89,400. $52,000 owed to offshore betting accounts. $37,400 in personal loans and credit cards. Business succession plan in place. Grant Mercer to transition ownership of Mercer Automotive. Estimated value $2.1 million to Brett Mercer, pending personal stability assessment. Note: a DUI or manslaughter charge would disqualify succession. Brett didn't just lie to save himself, he lied to save $2 million. Envelope 6, unsigned affidavit, dated May 3, 2021. I, Grant Mercer, hereby swear under penalty of perjury that my son Brett Mercer confessed to me on September 27, 2020, that he, not Colleen Mercer, was operating the vehicle at the time of the fatal collision that resulted in the death of Sophie Marie Mercer. It went on for 2 pages, detailed, specific, legal, never signed, never notarized, never filed. Paperclipped to it was a sticky note in my father's handwriting. I couldn't do it. If I file this, your mother will never forgive me. Brett will go to jail. The business will collapse. Our family will be destroyed. I'm sorry, Colleen. I'm a coward. But I'm keeping this, in case you ever need it. Dad. I sat in that viewing room for 40 minutes. The receipts spread out in front of me. Crash report, gas station footage, 911 transcript, father's memo, PI report, unsigned affidavit. My father had built me a case, ready to prosecute, ready to clear my name, and he'd never used it. He knew, for 5 years, and he left me proof instead of protection. I didn't cry. I felt something colder than grief. Clarity. They didn't just let me take the blame. They needed me to. I made copies at the bank. Sharon helped me without asking questions. Then I drove back to the hospital. It was 1:48 p.m. when I walked into the ICU waiting room. Brett and my mother were there, sitting in the same chairs. My father was still unconscious. Lila had arrived, Brett's wife now. She looked uncomfortable, like she didn't want to be here. I sat down across from them. I put a manila folder on the table between us. "What's that?" Brett asked. "Dad left me a safe deposit box," I said, full of things he'd been saving, about the night Sophie died. Brett's face went white. My mother said, "Colleen, your father was medicated. He wasn't himself." I opened the folder. "The crash report says I was driving," I said. "But the scene photos show the driver's side took the worst impact. If I'd been driving and hit that tree the way the report says, the damage pattern would be different." I laid the photos on the table. Aunt June appeared in the doorway. She'd arrived while I was gone. She stepped closer. "This is ridiculous," my mother said. I pulled out the next item. Dad got the security footage from the speedway on Route 37, time-stamped 11:02 p.m., 18 minutes before Sophie died. I set the DVD case on the table. "It shows you getting into the driver's seat, Brett. Not me." Brett stood up. "You don't know what you're talking about." His voice shook. I pulled out the 911 transcript. Call transcript, September 26, 2020, 11:21 p.m., witness Jerry Palmer. I read aloud. "I saw him going at least 65, maybe 70. Him, not her, not me." Aunt June started crying. Lila was staring at Brett. My mother tried to grab the folder. I pulled it back. "Dad wrote a memo at 3:42 a.m. the night Sophie died," I said. "Brett found him in the hospital chapel, and Brett told him the truth." I read from the memo. "I was driving, Dad. I panicked. I thought if they knew I was drunk, I'd lose everything." Brett couldn't finish a denial. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. "Dad hired a private investigator in 2021, I continued. "Found out you owed $89,000, that you were about to inherit a $2 million business, and that a DUI manslaughter charge would disqualify you." I set the PI report on the table. "So you let me take the blame." Lila stood up. She backed away from Brett. "Brett," she said, "tell me she's lying." He didn't answer. I looked at my mother. "Dad wrote in his letter that you told him, 'We can't lose both children. Colleen is strong. She'll survive this. You chose Brett. You sacrificed me to protect him.'" My mother's face was stone. "You don't understand what it would have done to this family." Aunt June whispered, "Denise, my God." I stood up. "I don't want your money," I said. "I want my name back. I want Sophie's death to belong to the person who caused it. And I want you to know that I'm done carrying your lie." I picked up the folder. I've made copies, one for the sheriff, one for the insurance company, one for the family attorney, and one for me. I walked toward the door. Brett called after me. Colleen, wait! No. I stopped at the door to room 512. My father was still sedated, still dying. I walked in, kissed his forehead. Thank you, I whispered. And I left. If you were me, would you forgive a father who knew you were innocent but stayed silent for 5 years? Type yes or no in the comments. I drove back to Franklin that night. I didn't stay for my father's death. He passed at 11:38 p.m. My mother called. I didn't answer. I got the voicemail the next morning. I filed the evidence the following week. Certified mail to the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, to Progressive Insurance, to the family attorney, Dale Simmons. I didn't ask them to prosecute Brett. I didn't demand anything. I just wanted the truth on file. What happened after that wasn't revenge. It was consequence. The insurance company reopened the case. Brett's business partners started asking questions. Lila filed for separation in late February. My mother didn't call, didn't apologize, didn't acknowledge any of it. Aunt June texted me on February 22nd. Brett is losing the business. Your mother won't talk to anyone. The whole family is falling apart. I'm sorry, honey, but you did the right thing. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. But I also felt light, like I'd put down something I'd been carrying too long. On February 26, 2026, I drove back to Ohio one last time. It was Sophie's birthday. She would have been 25. I didn't see my family. I went to Westerville Cemetery instead. Section C, Plot 47. The headstone said, Sophie Marie Mercer, beloved daughter and sister. It didn't say how she died. I brought flowers, daisies. They were her favorite. Emma had drawn a picture that morning. A rainbow and two stick figures holding hands. She'd written for Aunt Sophie across the top in wobbly letters. I folded it and placed it at the base of the stone. Then I knelt in the grass and spoke to my sister for the first time in 5 years. I'm sorry it took me this long to come back, I said. I'm sorry I let them make me believe I killed you. But I know now, and you know now. It wasn't me, Sophie. It was never me. The morning was quiet, just wind and birdsong. I told them the truth, I said. I gave them the receipts. I don't know if it changes anything for you, but it changed everything for me. I told her about Emma, about Ryan, about the life I'd built 6 hours south. I'm done carrying your death, I said. I'm going to carry your memory instead. The real one, not the one they made up. I stayed for 40 minutes. When I left, I didn't feel guilty anymore. I felt grief, clean grief, for a sister I loved, and that was something I'd never been allowed to feel before. Ryan asked me when I got home, "Do you think you'll ever talk to them again?" We were sitting at the kitchen table. Emma was coloring. The window was open. Spring air drifted through. Maybe, I said, but only if they're ready to hear the truth. He nodded. He understood. My mother called a few days later, left a voicemail. Colleen, your father is gone. Brett is struggling. This family is broken. Can we please talk? I saved the voicemail, but I didn't call back. She wanted to talk, but she still hadn't apologized, and I didn't owe her a conversation. Aunt June is the only one I still talk to, every 2 weeks. She tells me what's happening. She doesn't ask me to fix it. She asked me once, "Do you think you'll ever forgive them?" I said, "I don't know, but I don't have to decide that today." The door to my family is open, but it's conditional. They have to acknowledge what they did. They have to apologize. They have to accept my terms. If they want me in their lives, they have to earn it. The door belongs to me now, not them. I'm sitting on my porch right now. It's evening. Emma's riding her bike in the driveway. Ryan's grilling chicken. The sky is turning pink. This is my life. Not the one my family tried to write for me. The one I built, when they erased me. My father couldn't be brave when I needed him, but he gave me the tools to be brave for myself, and maybe that's the best apology he could give. I don't know if my mother will ever admit what she did. I don't know if Brett will ever face real consequences. I don't know if this family will ever be whole again. But I know this. For 5 years, I carried a death that wasn't mine. Now, I only carry the truth. And that's a weight I can live with. The door is mine now. I decide who walks through.